going to be a really hard video to edit into any sort of coherency. I can tell you that for sure. Hi everyone. I wanted to make a little bit of a different video. I know I sort of said I was getting into the audiobooks, and I definitely am doing that. I've recorded a few chapters already that I just need to edit and get up. This one's a bit of an extension on a brief throwaway line I said in my last one, and I thought it would be good to coincide with Pride Month. So my brief throwaway line was that I'm not entirely straight. Now, I know that's a lot coming from a cis woman in a heterosexual marriage who's been married for a long time. I'm going to talk a lot about a few different things in this, and again, I don't know how much of it I'll have the courage to actually share and how much I'll post. But basically, growing up, I was never taught to be bigoted. My mother is fantastic in that way. She had friends who were part of the LGBT community and LGBTQIA+, whatever letters you want to use. I think all of them are valid except putting the P in there, because that takes away the legitimacy of the actual movement, and it's done by assholes who try to co-opt what LGBT is supposed to be about. If you don't know, that P is for pedophilia, which should not ever be grouped with that, even if there is some truth that people who are pedophiles can't help who they are attracted to. There is a massive difference between people who hurt minors through their own actions and people who are in a committed, loving, adult, consensual relationship. Very big difference, and to conflate the two is to be an asshole. So if you do that, you are an asshole. Anyway, growing up, I was never really exposed to a lot of people in the LGBTQIA+ community. Mostly I grew up in a very low socioeconomic, straight, white community. There were a few Indigenous Australians in my school, and a couple of people from various other races, but they were by far the minority. Not that it's an excuse, but that is probably a reason why, especially my earlier books, were very white centric, because that was how I grew up. I wasn't exposed to a lot of other cultures and people. Again, not through any fault of my mother. She was very supportive, and she's never been bigoted or racist. More that we weren't well off. We couldn't travel. We didn't do a lot of things. So we were restricted to the people that we lived around and the communities that we lived in. So although I never grew up explicitly bigoted or explicitly racist household, I think a certain amount of that systematic racism and systematic bigotry did kind of work its way into my makeup, especially as a younger person. And as I've gotten older, I've exposed myself to a lot more of those other cultures, other people, and other communities that I wasn't able to access when I was younger. And part of that has made me realize that I've got a hell of a lot more privilege than I would have ever expected growing up. I had second-hand clothes. I remember very vividly days coming home and having mum crying because she didn't know where the money was going to come from. We didn't have my father around at all, and it was a very hard childhood. And yet she did what she could, and she's my hero because of it. But yeah, so I have a lot more privilege than I would have ever thought I had. And being able to recognize that doesn't make me weak. It doesn't make me want to apologise for being born the way I was and in the skin colour that I was. But it does make me want to try and have retribution and make sure that justice is found for those people who are being killed and murdered because of bigoted white people. And that's what it is. It's not because of the colour of the other people's skin. It's because of some inferiority complex that people have, that they can't see that white are not superior. Every race is as valid as every other, and to think otherwise is to have a very inferior point of view for yourself, because you believe that the only way to better yourself is to kill someone else. And how is that anything but an inferiority complex? So white supremacists are not supreme. They are inferior. So how does this align with my coming out and doing it via a very random throwaway line that was intentional as much as it wasn't intentional, because this has been eating away at me for ages and I haven't known how to address it, because ultimately I'm a coward. So for me, I think a big part of my awakening and realization that maybe I wasn't entirely straight actually came while writing Phoebe's books. If you haven't read them, don't know what I'm talking about, in the Phoebe Reid series, she has a best friend who's bi. And I started doing a lot of research for that. And the thing is, bi erasure is a real thing. And so I never really had much exposure to bi people as a child, even as a teen, even as an adult. They didn't exist, and the few that did, it was just things like Cruel Intentions, where it was all scandalous and sexy and all about cheating and having as many sexual partners as you could. You know, you couldn't be bi for love. It was, you were bi because you wanted sex with as many people as possible. Or you were actually straight but just experimenting, or you were, you know, any one of those other million things that they use with bi erasure. And around the same time that I was writing those series, You, Me, Her came out as well, and watching that kind of made me start to question some of the things that had happened in my life. And what I mean by that is, I've never been with a woman. I got married very young, and I've been married ever since. But there are very, very many women who I have found attractive, and possibly that I have found more attractive than some of the men I've found. Now, I'm not exactly like a sexual person. I'll sometimes pretend with people who are talking about the latest, hot guy, and be like, oh, yeah, he's so attractive, blah, blah, blah. I've never really been into that. My favourite actor of all time ever is David Tennant, and it's nothing to do with his looks, even though I do find him classically attractive. I find his personality, especially on screen and while he's performing, just to be so captivating and interesting that that is what draws me to him. So definitely not entirely straight. There's an argument that maybe no one is entirely straight, and that might be the case, and that's why I'm not going so far as to claim that I'm definitely bi or definitely pan, although that would be around the spectrum of where I would imagine I fall. I don't care about genitals that much, so it wouldn't bother me in a theoretical world to be with a woman, to be with a man, to be with a trans woman, to be with a trans man, to be with anyone, so long as they were good to me and there was an attraction there. But then that comes to the other part of it, which is that I'm very, very demi, and probably even towards asexual, especially after all of my issues that I've had. And this is far too much information, so if my mother would like to tune out now, that would be absolutely fine by me. But sex isn't something that's fun. It's not something that attracts me that much. I know that sounds ridiculous considering I write borderline erotica half the time, but it's painful and it's terrible, and it becomes a chore very easily. And so I'm definitely on the asexual spectrum as well. So I guess I would be an ace demi, somewhere around there, sexual and bi or pan romantic, I guess. I don't know. I'm still figuring a lot of this stuff out for myself now that I've explored the world and see what exists. And that brings me to my biggest point of this pride video, I guess you would say, is representation. Representation in media is so important for the girls like me and the boys who would have been raised in similar environments to me, who only know the straight cis world that never got exposed to what was possible within the realm of sexuality, who were told that there was gay or there was straight and there was nothing in between, and that if you didn't like sex you were weird, and all those other little things that just aren't reality in the spectrum of human nature. Humans have a wide variety of interests, they have a wide variety of likes and dislikes. They aren't cookie cutter that you can put into little boxes and say this is that, that is that. You know, there is a lot of variation, and without all of that variation being represented, people can't see themselves in media as much. And bi erasure happens, and pansexuals get told that they must be excited by cookware and all those other silly jokes that come out because people just don't understand what it is. And I think the world we're living in now, with YouTube and TikTok giving access to such a wide variety of people to kids, is so fantastic. My daughter knows people who are LGBT+, and she knows people who are different colours and who live in different countries, and the wide range of human experiences. And that's something I never had, and it's something that's so fantastic that it's happening now. And it needs to happen more, and it needs to happen in all of our fiction that we absorb, because fiction feeds the reality. And it's not a direct correlation. You can't say that someone who read 50 Shades of Grey is definitely going to be into BDSM, or that they're going to be an abusive partner, or any of those sorts of things. Rather, it's a bit of a squiggly line where this feeds that, which feeds that, which feeds this, which feeds that. And the more representation we see in media, the more people get to see that, yes, there is other people like them. They get to understand what that feels like, and they get to realize their true selves, rather than getting into their 30s and still not knowing who they are, getting married young and not understanding why that might not necessarily have been the best decision. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my family, I love my daughter with all of my heart, and I wouldn't trade any of it for anything. But if I had known these things earlier and explored things earlier, I might have known myself earlier. And that, you know, that's something to regret to a certain degree. So what I've got to do is I've got to acknowledge it now and claim it now and be who I want to be now. And that doesn't mean running off and cheating, because being bi or pan does not mean cheating. It does not mean that you can't be faithful or be in a heterosexual relationship. It just means being you and acknowledging that that woman is hot and that, you know, you might have a fantasy about her just as much as you'd have a fantasy about any other celebrity. I mean, have you seen Ruby Rose? Really? But yeah, so that's my little coming out Pride Month video, born off of a throwaway statement, but that I've wanted to elaborate on for a lot longer. I actually may have played part of why I haven't posted for so long, because back in September I wanted to do a video for National Coming Out Day, which is in October, and I had it planned, and it just, the right time to record never happened, because it's scary. Even as safe as I am coming out, and as inconsequential as it is for me, because I don't have hatred in my life, I don't have people who are going to destroy me for what I am or who I am, it's still hard to acknowledge that within yourself when you've never really understood it properly until the last few years. So yeah, I just wanted to say, be kind to each other, to everyone who has got it hard and can't come out of the closet for whatever reason, whether it's that you're scared, whether it's that you physically can't because you are in a dangerous situation. If you do, you have my heart, you have my love, you have my support. You're great. You are awesome. You are all awesome. Everyone is valid except white supremacists. Fuck you. Bye. Have a great day.